Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to this series where I take you on my journey to the Grandmaster title. This is episode number 5, and in 4 of the first 5 episodes thus far, I am playing 2 training games in every video against an anonymous title player. That player has an account on chess.com they've never used, that's why it's rated 1200. Don't think that I'm beating up at 1200. I am not that rude, and I've appreciated all of your comments thus far. I read through them. Super supportive. Some of you trolling, but, you know, it comes with the territory. All right, I'll see you after game number 1 for analysis. It is game time. I've been playing a lot of c4. This time I'm going to go with d4. And I believe that my opponent will go for a Nimso Indian defense. That fits my opponent's repertoire. But maybe he'll play like Budapest Gambit. I don't know. This is like a secret weapon that my opponent has. I won't tell anybody. Knight f3 is what I played last time. And the difference here is that, you know, knight c3 allows bishop b4 and you can fight in the main lines. And knight f3 enables black to play either the queen's Indian, the Bogo Indian, d5, whatever. I'm going to go knight c3 and induce my opponent into playing the Nim. So it's a very forcing move, knight c3, because if your opponent doesn't want to play a queen's gambit decline, they won't. And here, I've actually prepared this idea f3. So I am going to enter this variation, which is very interesting, and the idea is to go e4. Now, I checked my opponent's games beforehand, and I actually know that my opponent castles here. But perhaps they will surprise me. I don't know. And in fact, my opponent could here be anticipating the fact that I have prepared against this castles line that I know they play. And I know they play it because information is out there. And so here there are 2 options. Basically, you can get this bishop to take you, or you can play e4 right away. Now, e4 is very aggressive. Personally, I like to play this move a3 first. And here, black takes, and can do something in the center with c5 or d5. My opponent plays the move knight h5. Now, knight h5 has a very... By the way, this is everything that I had prepared already. I know that this is what they play. Knight h5, and actually let me crop myself, because I'm sitting like this, but I don't know if I'm actually going to be comfortable exactly like this throughout the recording. Anyway, okay, so knight h5, the idea of this is to play queen h4. The best move here for white is this hilarious move knight to h3. And there is f5. F5 is the second idea of moving the knight to h5. You enable the move f5, which was not possible a move ago, and you would say, well, this breaks all the principles. You're supposed to play c5, d5. Knight h5 is a really kind of, let's put it this way, it's an edgy way to play the position. I have the bishop pair from the opening, but I have slightly damaged structure. What black wants to do is kind of freeze up my pawns, and this is just one very, very dynamic way to play. Now, here I have prepared something that I know that my opponent has faced in the past. E4, F, E4, and I believe bishop to G5. And it gives white a very strong initiative. I am going to play E4, and if I'm not mistaken, knight to C6. The E4 is not a popular move. Okay, plays D6. My opponent once faced this over the board and got hit with F, E4, bishop G5. So this is new to me. All I prepared was if he takes. And I figured he wouldn't, and I didn't know what he would do in this position, so here we are. So the scary thing is I've never played this position in my life. Which is probably not particularly smart, but this is why I'm doing it in a training game. Okay, so the first thing that I'm asking is why don't I go bishop g5? And whether or not that's the entire point of what I'm doing. The other moves, like for example, bishop g5, maybe queen e8. The other option is just to play something like bishop to e2. I'm going to do this. This is kind of anticipating that something might happen over here. Queen to h4, I have knight f2, I think. I have knight f2. And if pawn takes e4, I have g3. And there's nothing there. I don't know if I was supposed to put my bishop on d3. But I'm going bishop e2 because after takes... Oftentimes, you're not even taking back. By the way, like one thing you might all be wondering is why did you just leave your pawn there to be captured when pawn takes e4, pawn takes e4 like this, right? So, okay, f4. f4 closes the center. Now, I really want to go g4. I really want to play this move. Takes, and then maybe takes, knight g3, rook g1, knight e2, queen e2. I mean, it's probably just very bad. I should probably just move my knight back to f2. And opponent probably wants to play e5. Okay. I also have g4 here and bishop g5. Throw in the in-between move before I go into all that good stuff. At the end of it, there's going to be some e5 move. So, for example, here, bishop g5, queen e8. F4 there? Wow, F4 looks insane. I love it. F4. Attacking the knight. I'm gonna do it. I think this could be something. This is completely insane. And here, if queen to h4, I just go knight back. So again, that's not a problem. And if the knight dips back to f6, well, then I get everything because I get the pawn too. And you can't let me have the f4 pawn that you just put there. So now, to be honest, in a classical game, what would need to happen is I would need to go back and review this line better. Because already after e4, g6, there's very few games. I'm completely on my own, which can't happen. This is still too insane of a variation to be on your own. You can play variations where you're on your own in more positional that aren't so dynamic, but this one is completely nuts. Like, of course, you have to memorize your stuff. That's just how it works. That's all the top guys and gals. They play like this. They memorize their stuff. I'm not doing it the right way. Let's put it this way. Okay, so here comes my plan with bishop g5. This is always the idea in a lot of these lines. You're kind of trying to throw this in. And like I said, I came up with what looks like a fascinating idea after the queen moves to play f4 and just load up a massive center, hitting the knight. If the knight drops back, I'm never really worried about moves like g2, by the way. That does look cool to get a new queen. But g2, rook g1, I don't really... There's nothing. And now, I think queen e8 is better because you don't get in the way of the bishop or the knight. Like, this move just makes sense because you can come here and you still have access to the same diagonal. I think queen d7 doesn't make any sense unless you, in the long run, want to hit this knight, which I just am not that sure about. But who knows? Who knows? Who knows? But you have to move the queen. Again, I don't believe in knight f6, really. Maybe, but you're just really retreating for basically no reason and giving me all the play. So I don't know why you would do that. So queen e8 is probably the way to go. Interesting, interesting, interesting. Very dynamic position. I wouldn't have gone for this if I didn't have f4, because basically what I looked at, everything besides f4 looked bad. And it looks bad because if the queen moves here and this knight is loose, I just don't see a way to solve all my problems over here. Whereas this move locks in my bishop and immediately puts maximum value of danger that I can give to black. What I mean by that is after the move queen e8, I can't put black in any danger with a move like rook g1 or pawn takes, but they are forcing moves. But this is the most forcing move because I'm putting black in the most amount of danger that I can get in that position. Now, I'm starting to doubt myself, like maybe I could have even played f4 here, but I was never going to do that. This is always a useful move in these variations. My nose is very itchy. I did a lot of exercise today. I'm somehow realizing that when I exercise a lot, bike a lot, or run a lot, my nose will itch, or I'll have a runny nose, and I think it's called exercise-induced rhinitis. Now, I am not a doctor, so I simply got that from a Google search, and I would recommend for you to speak to your doctor. But queen d7 is ultimately what my opponent goes for. Why not queen e8 is the question. This is all the same. So why queen d7? That move just looks wrong. Just doesn't look right. There's always this move to attack me. So if I play f4, let's do it. There's f4. Now, if e5, I actually think going f5 makes sense. And closing off the queen. Unless I'm just missing something. Which I don't think I am. Just closing off the queen. Well, it's chess. I mean, you're always missing something. I'm gonna eat some rice. Okay, my opponent throws in g2. What am I... Okay. Okay, I guess I gotta go here. Have I missed something? Have I... Okay, now knight f6. So they're attacking this. Basically, if I take on g2, they're gonna take on e4. Okay, but then I have bishop h6. I mean, it's like... Whew. I mean, maybe bishop h5 there. Or even... Or like bishop d3. So... Here, here, here. g6, bishop d3. There is always d5, but... Man, d5 is an insane move. Bishop h6. In a classical game, this would take maybe like 8 minutes to calculate. Unfortunately, I don't have that time. So if I'm gonna, like, I can also just take on f6 and kind of shut up. And I can also go back to f2. That is another move that I have here. Just go back to f2, take on g2 slowly, and get out of this position. Well, not get out, like, have a good position. I'm gonna go back to f2. What an absolutely wild game. I don't know what's happening. At some point, black will probably try to strike in the center, because you can't just let my center rock like that. I would not be shocked if after rook g2 knight e4 white is like much better, but I got kind of scared. That's a weird move. Can't I just take, and take again? And just be up a pawn? Take, take, take. I guess queen d1, rook d1. When knight goes back, I have e6. What if I just take? See, you want to break out, but I'm not sure you can. I'm not sure you can. I mean, okay, now... I mean, I have the world's ugliest pawn structure, make no mistake. But where's that knight going? I mean, you really gonna go back to e8 with a straight face? I don't know. I mean, I don't have a good pawn structure, but I'm about to win the g2 pawn. And I have bishop e7 in a lot of positions. Once I win g2, g7 is feeling real soft. So I don't know. And like I said, there's queen d1, but rook d1. I mean, I've immediately got reinforcements. I think I'm much better here, definitely. I've won the battle here. But as all these training games go, they always come down to the wire. I'm going to try to avoid a time scramble. That's going to be the little lesson today, to try to finish this game with like maybe 1:30 or 2 minutes on the clock, so I'm avoiding those ridiculous last-minute mad dashes. I think I'm just going to pre-move this, because I think the move queen d7 really hurt black. It kind of got in the way of his development. And I think he sort of played e5. e5 is one of those moves like, oh, I'm breaking out. But then you just realize, no, you're just losing a pawn, and you really have to retreat. Now, he plays knight e8. Yeah. Okay, so obviously rook g2 is the first thing on my mind. There's also this funny move, queen d5, which looks very good, but accomplishes nothing after king h8, right? I think. I also have bishop g4. But I think for now I'm just going to take on g2. I'm not going to overcomplicate matters. Let me activate my rook. Now I always have some... Actually, bishop h6 is looking really juicy. Probably knight c6 is going to get played. I would anticipate this move. You just got to get a piece out. Like queen d5, I would play with check to get taken. See, I'm trying to get taken advantageously so I can undouble my pawns. If I get my pawns like that, like 1, 2, 3, 4, I'm really good. Right now they're doubled everywhere, which is not good. So black definitely has some compensation here. Okay, queen c6 activates the piece. Bishop e7 here. So now queen d5, there's bishop e6, which I don't love. Bishop e7, rook f7. There's like no other move, right? After I do what I do. I can't go bishop h6 anymore. Complex. It's complex. Queen c6 is a very decent move. I really want to put my queen on d8. It looks unbelievably stupid. Also looks like it could win the game, so let's go bishop e7. I think this is the only move that makes sense. Rook f4 just does not strike me as logical at all. And then can I just go all the way down? Queen d8? That is so crazy. You just gotta play it. You just gotta play it. Now bishop f6 is like lurking. I've got bishop h5 too. Not really, because then there's g6, but... And then I can like maybe bring my rook. I'm fascinated. Queen c8 is a threat, but more importantly, it's kind of about the movement of these pieces, but... I don't know. I have another idea. That's interesting. Do I have rook d1 here? My bishop's in danger. Oh, do I have e6? Oh my god, e6. Oh, look at that. e6, queen takes, check, here. e6, here. I take the rook. Oh my god. I think e6 is just winning. What a move. I'm not going nuts, right? Wow. And if rook takes e7, I have pawn takes this. That is insane. What a shot. Woo, that feels nice. That was only possible because the bishop was disconnected from e6. Now only the queen can take it, and then there's queen e8. Generally, though, when there's this level of congestion, there's always something. There was always something kind of lurking. So yeah, e6 is a nice one. I wonder if it was winning after queen d8. If bishop e7, queen d8 was the top engine line, then I feel good about myself. I think it's just game over. Probably the best thing for my opponent to do is take on e7 with the queen. That's the way you would play this, I think. But even then, I can take on c8 and take on b7. Like I can, yeah. Oh, my opponent just resigns. GG. Okay, so I was really happy with the way this went. Obviously, also, it's a different day. I'm analyzing this the day after. I had a little bit of intel, and thus far throughout, I've been playing c4, knight f3. Sometimes I develop toward the center. And then, you know, sometimes with the move c4 on move 1, you can play the bishop to g2 because you're delaying the move d4. The thing about having a repertoire with d4 and c4 is it makes you a little bit unpredictable. So I've tried to make it a mission in every one of these episodes to play something new. Like I haven't played into a Nimso, for example. The Nimso Indian is one of the most just flexible, dynamic systems that exist, and also solid systems that exist. The two main lines against the Nimso Indian are queen c2 and e3. In my life, I have played g3, I have played queen c2, I also like to play knight f3, and then here, if black doesn't play d5 to go back into a Rogozin, because here you need a ton more theoretical knowledge, black might play like c5, you get something called potentially the Romanishin variation in the, yeah, essentially this is the way studying theory works, but I had a slight advantage in that before the game I prepared the f3 Nimso, and the f3 Nimso is the same-ish variation trying to play e4. Super wild, super dynamic, and already black can like start, you know, playing stuff like this, just trying to explode the center. But I knew, and I had a suspicion that my opponent would play the short castle variation. I would go for the bishop, they would take, and then play this move knight h5. Knight h5 is not the most kind of common handling of this position. There are other ways. Like I said, it's always principled to play something like c5, going for the middle of the board, and play is super complicated. But I took a calculated risk, I did a little bit of preparation, and we got this knight h5 move. Knight h3 and pawn to f5. And here, there's two lines. I believe that one is knight f2 and one is e3. I don't remember, because the game was yesterday, if I talked about that during the game recording. But I played e4. And e4 is a modern treatment. And the whole point of e4, the whole point of this, is that you allow them to take, and what you do is you pounce. So you play moves like bishop g5 to hit the queen, and then like if queen e8, there's even lines you can play like bishop e2. And basically, I mean, this looks ridiculous, but you have a lead in development, and black's pieces are sort of oddly scattered. And so in a perfect situation, you get to something like this. This is a very modern style of chess. Sacrifice a pawn, bishop pair, more space in the center, and white is just clearly better. And so that is like the modern treatment of this variation. So I played e4. I knew that my opponent had a game where they took, so I didn't know what they were going to play, so here we were completely on our own. And as you saw as the game progressed, essentially I played what I thought was a natural developing move. It turns out that I believe this is the first move out of my opponent's notes. They had bishop d3 in their notes, and maybe pawn takes f5, taking on f5. But I played here, they closed it down, and here I came up with what I thought was just an absolutely just incredible idea. To sacrifice this pawn and go here, here, here. I mean, this is like, I'm so proud of this idea. It's so strong. The best thing to play for black here is this computer line queen h4 check. I have to go here. This knight has to go back. And here the engine gives something so ludicrous, like maybe in a classical game you can come up with this. Here the engine gives taking this pawn, okay? Black responds with knight e4 hitting the bishop. You back the bishop up to also cover mate. You sacrifice a pawn in the process, but open up your rook. So now you play queen to c2, which threatens mate. Black responds with g6. You now play rook to h3. If queen here, just here, it's not a problem. After queen f4, you play bishop here. And in this position, black needs to play king g7 to cover the pawn. And you play king e2 and go here. This is the engine line. And by the way, black is still one pawn up, and white has like a potentially very powerful attack over there on the h-file. Super scary position. And this is what the engine gives. In the game, my opponent allowed me to kind of get going, right? Get going. And by the way, remember I told you during the game in this position that I bet you rook g2 is winning, but I couldn't figure it out? Well, it is winning. My instinct was right, but here's why. Knight takes e4. Bishop h6, everything that I planned to go down the g-file. Now, of course, if g6, you can wait, but you can also take the rook. Rook f7. Now bishop h5 to attack the rook. Rook e7. And here you just play very calmly queen f3. And you just chill. You chill, you'll figure it out. Because essentially, the only way that black can defend the knight, like black can't move the knight out of the middle, because that just allows another piece to come to the party, like knight g5 in the future, and also just this. Have you ever seen this? Where every single piece you have is about to end up on the same, like, three little files, like a little rectangle? It's crazy. Just this. So it was winning, but unfortunately, I didn't have enough time to calculate this fully out, and so I decided to just kind of be solid. And then my opponent trying to lash out. And even though it's an ugly transformation of position, we just pick up 2 pawns in the process, and now white is clearly better. But it turns out that this idea to play bishop e7, rook f7, queen d8 is not as strong as it looks, although white is always kind of pressuring because black can go b6. And this is a fascinating idea that both me and my opponent missed. The point is that the rook is now always protected, so the bishop and the knight can move, which is really interesting. Like, it just seemed too slow. It just seemed like I would go, I don't know, here, you know, and like this and this cannot take because it's both pinned, and I don't know, this looks incredibly scary, and once again, the engine strikes with long castle, with all this ugly structure, but black is very close to just getting obliterated. Knight g4, knight h6, I mean, it's a very dangerous position, but it ends with a very flashy knockout tactic. Anytime a person is this congested, e6, and it's over. Queen d8, ef, and so my opponent just resigned after e6. Okay, game number 2. Okay, here we go. Caro Kann with black, as we discussed, and I'm curious, is it gonna take? Knight c3, okay. So far, so good. de4. So I think if I play knight f6, my opponent is gonna uncork a little bit of prep against me. But I know that on bishop f5, my opponent likes to play knight g3. So I am going to play knight f6. I think he's prepared this, though. So this is the Tartakower Caro Kann. I play both, obviously. Now, I could go for Braunstein-Larsen, but like I don't play that. I mean, if we were in a tournament, I'd play this. And I think what he's going to do is he's going to actually play an early move. Like, we've discussed this very briefly. So c3, bishop d6 is the main line. Now white plays like usually bishop d3, castles, queen c2, rook e8 check, and he's going to play bishop e3. That's what I think. So I'm going to castle. He's going to go here. And then normally you give a check. Yeah, so you give this check. White plays knight here, and you play h5, h4. What I think he's going to do is play this. And I haven't prepared this at all. I have no idea. Okay. Never mind. All that hoopla. So maybe he's got something prepared even deeper than this. H5 is the only line I know, so I'm going to play it. And yeah, H5, H4 is like kind of the trendy, weird treatment here. But I haven't played these lines in a while. Normally, it's been proven that short castles here is the more challenging way to play. Like if white plays bishop e3 and long castle, you get to go here and b5 and a5, a4. It's like you get a very easy course of action. Yeah, short castle is the interesting one. Now, if I'm not mistaken, the move here is h4. I could be mistaken, but I believe that this is the move. The pawn ventures out over there to prevent the easy development of the knight. Only the f4 square is kind of available. And yeah, so that's a very tricky move. If you play rook e2, then queen e2, bishop here, and then there's queen e4. Or did he mess it up? Queen e4 and then like some queen h7. I don't think he messed it up. I don't think I can take on f4. I'm starting to get second thoughts, but yeah, I don't think it's possible. Yeah, I've never had this position really. So let me oops. I accidentally clicked on my bars. Let me think about this. I haven't really had this too much in Blitz or even Rapid. Well, I don't play Rapid. So bishop g4 doesn't make any sense. Bishop e6 is just always a flexible move. Like there's basically never a bad moment to play this. Makes me want to do it. Also, queen c7 sort of forces the issue a little bit with this bishop, makes it take. I don't know. I think I'm just gonna go bishop e6. And I would like to, normally what you do is you put your knight on f8. But I think I'm just gonna develop because like there's nothing that can really go on here. Maybe some rook will come to e1 or something, like rook e1, rook d1. And at that point I can play queen c7. The only reason I'm not taking is because I just don't want the knight to get any access. I can also like attack the bishop with this pawn to make it take, but there's no, why would I do that? It's so weakening. And it might be okay. The computer might be like, it's completely fine. And it's not human to play g5. You play g5, you start questioning the legitimacy of your opponent. Right, so rook e1. Makes sense. I really want to go knight d7. I'm sure there's also some weird computer stuff with bishop f8 and then playing g5. The thing is, if I want to play knight d7, I have to do something like right now. So my opponent can consider a move like g3, taking and putting the knight on f4, from where he will have some pressure. I can consider queen c7, take. Maybe he will play pawn f4, but and try to play f5. I need to develop my knight, is what I need to do. The question is, do I take on f4 or do I move g5? I mean, again, I'm like starting to actually convince myself the move g5 is okay. I'll be honest, I don't exactly see why it's not okay, which is already very bad news. Like, I don't think I would ever play this move in classical without some massive investment of thought to make sure I'm not blundering something. So my biggest concern in playing the move g5 would be that after it takes, the move f4 is like very strong. So for example, it's always going to be, even right away, could be problematic. So I don't think there's any reason to play this move. So I think I'm just going to play queen c7. I did not have to spend a minute and a half on that, but in Blitz, you know, like I always play queen c7. So when they offer me this trade, I always... Oops. How do I undo that? Like in blitz, I never take to let them have the knight here. I always play queen c7 and make them take. Now what he might do is take, and enable the move knight f4 with something like queen d2 or pawn to g3. Okay, that's also another way to do it. Actually, the way he's doing it is probably even smarter. Because... yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I'm gonna go knight d7. My knight is out. I probably have no problems. And the knight goes to f8 from where it covers h7 and this square. And then g5 actually becomes a lot stronger because you actually have backup. Whereas if my rooks are disconnected, like there's no reason to weaken my king if I don't have all the forces kind of ready to go. I think he'll go queen f4. Yeah, it's not going to be a very fun game, but it will be a game. Okay, I have to take, and I have to take because... First of all, like, what am I going to do? Hang my pawn? No, I don't like hanging pawns. I like the YouTube channel. That's the YouTube channel, by the way, free plug. So the only way... No, I can't preserve my bishop. There's no way. Like, this can happen at any point now. So, do I play a move like rook d8? Or do I... I'm going to go knight f8. I don't exactly know what my opponent wants. Knight f8 also kind of threatens to save the bishop. Like, maybe I'm going to go bishop d7, dude. And also, if now knight e6, I'm completely fine with the trade. Even though in the Tartakower you have a damaged structure, because you have a little bit more space, it's very difficult for white to actually attack an imbalanced structure. Like, when there's an imbalance in structure, you kind of try to target it, make it weak, win it. It's not happening here. Everything is really solid. This is unbelievably difficult to get to, like g3, and we just chill. So we take on hg, and yeah, that's kind of it. Again, it's Tartakower is not an opening that's like a super easy way to win with black. But if I'm playing an GM, and I'm playing black, and they play e4, you know, c6 is completely the way to go. I'm reading some YouTube comments. So that's how I'm occupying myself right now. Rook e3. I really want to play this move. Maybe bishop g4. Offer a trade of rooks. I don't think my opponent can't really double, right? Well, they can. I mean, bishop d7 to trade rooks is also pretty reasonable. I have to not rush into exchanges. I have to kind of understand that even though the position is equal, there's still a little bit of venom, a little bit of some traps. Not a lot of them, but enough. Trying to figure out what I want in this position. Let's start with, if I go here, there's always bishop c4. I think I'm gonna do it. I just don't see any other way really to make any progress. My thumbnail designer for YouTube is moving. Shout out Jojo. That's another reason why he's moving. He's gonna be gone for a little bit. Well, gone for like 24, 48 hours. So I want to take. And now the big question is, do I go for this? Like, do we just play this endgame? I surrender all chances to actually play for a win, probably. Knight e6 is the only other option to try to trade knights. And then, well, knight e6 is actually a pretty legitimate move. I don't think it's that stupid. I'm going to play it. I might have just convinced myself to do something dumb. But, you know, the truth is that this is the best piece that my opponent has. It's very active. Like, my bishop can counterbalance the other bishop. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. I have no idea. That's why we play the game. That's why we play the game. Also, I can undouble. It's kind of funny. I really rarely think about undoubling these. Oh, jeez. That could straight up land me in a bad position. Because this pawn's kind of far. Like I said, double pawns are kind of interesting because they're good reinforcements for each other. He takes. Starting to get second thoughts about this move. I'm just going to take on e6 with my bishop. I like where it stands. I could offer a draw. I could offer a draw here. I don't think my opponent will be super thrilled about the draw offer. I still have to defend because white has the better structure. Yeah, hell. Just play a3 or something. And we still have to play some chess, unfortunately. Or fortunately. Can bring my rook, or I can play a5, a4 and actually try to win the game. Which would be pretty hilarious if I try to attempt that. There's always some c4 move. Rook d8. Let's play a5. Why not try to play this for a win? That could be psychologically really shocking if we try to play this for a win. Whereas a move like rook e4, I'll probably just repeat. I mean, I'm not gonna. But you know, I'm got some naughty ideas to potentially play b5, a4, completely close down the queen side. Nah, I should have probably played g5. I should have played g5 because now f4 is possible. Bleh. Oops. I got a little bit too hyped. Yeah, now f5 is annoying. Maybe I have to go bishop d7 and rook e8. Bishop d7, f5, rook e8. My pawn is stranded. What about g5? Oh yeah, g5 is pretty straightforward. I don't know why I'm analyzing the crap out of this. Oh no, it's not. Takes, rook e5, g4. Oh man. Rook h5, h3. Take. Bishop f1. Dude, what have I done to this position? Like rook e8. Takes. There's some rook e2, rook e1, rook b1 at the end. Dude, I don't know. I just said a lot of things. Oh man, if I screw this up this late, I'm gonna be really sad. I'm gonna be so sad. There's no need to lose this game at all. Okay, let's go g5. I calculated take, rook e5. Take, rook e5, g4. Oh, I missed rook g5. I guess there's rook g5 check. And then I have to decide where to move my king. I completely missed rook g5. King f8, rook h5. I guess I have to like rook e8. Because my rook on the back rank here is a bit stuck. Yeah, there's this move. Oh, losing this game is so upsetting. There is no need. Ay. Come on, man. Can I bring my king somehow? Maybe. I'm pretty frustrated. g4, rook g5, king f8, rook h5. king e7. I'm just gonna go for it. Here, here, here. Let's go this way. Now the question after rook h5 is that I go... Oh, but a5 is also hanging. Oh, man. Okay, let's go king e7. I'm down a pawn, but I believe. Also, maybe c5 right away. Take rook d8 and try to go down to d2. That could be a thing. I have to go for counterplay. I don't really have anything else. But basically, my logic is the rook is sort of stranded on the side of the board. So while it's kind of blocked in here, is my opportunity to create counterplay. And I'm going to try to do that directly down the middle. Because the only way to do this is with my rook. You know, this game does have certain benefits, though. Even though it's going to be wildly upsetting to lose it, it definitely exposes some of my weaknesses. I get a little bit too relaxed. And I gotta review some of the endgames that can arise in the Tartic Hour. Like, you basically just go and have a lesson on which endgames are good, which endgames are bad. Anyway, I'm about to be down 2 pawns, so I should stay focused. c5 was not smart, also. It just was not a good move. dc, rook d8, like bishop e2. Maybe rook d2, bishop g4, rook b2, takes, just 2 pawns down. There's no compensation. Rook d8 straight away would have been slightly better, but it's all bad. It's all bad. Sort of waiting to be executed. Not very nice way of putting it, but I could hypothetically sacrifice a 3rd pawn with dc, rook d8, bishop e2, f5. What is that move? And I didn't even see that. Is that a move? Can you play that? Wow. I guess the idea is to save the rook. It's not the stupidest idea in the world. Bishop d7. So, of course, my opponent naturally would want to defend the pawn. But I actually think that's a mistake, because I can play rook a6, rook b6. Right now, the only reason I cannot go for this pawn is because of the bishop. So c4 is bad. See, if the time situation was reversed, this would be a lot easier. But it's not. So probably rook h6. Yeah, rook h6 is a very, very smart move. Maybe f6. So d6 is a problem. I'm gonna go f6. I don't think it's... I have nothing, really. It's the problem. I can't really... Beggars can't be choosers. So... I gotta block d6. Probably now just bring the king or something. Bring the king. That's how you would win this. If check, king d6, rook f7. Rook f7 is a problem. I can't go king e5 because my bishop is hanging. Can I go f5? I guess rook f7 is not really a threat because after rook f6 I have king d5. But yeah, no, still not. I don't want to lose my pawns out here. That's not what I signed up for. That anyway. Okay. What do I king? No, it's probably should take, right? I mean, king e5, rook f7. Is that the idea? What if I get active here? If I get active, I'm getting hope, which is very, very upsetting. That I'm actually getting hopeful about saving the position. I want to move my bishop and hit this bishop. That's my king is active. I think my opponent has maybe messed this up a little bit. Rook g5 check is annoying though. King f4 here, maybe bishop e6. Hits the bishop. If the bishop goes back, rook d2. Yeah, we just play this actively. I'll probably lose. Oh, rook d5 is really strong. Rook d5 just wins. Oh, I missed that. That is That's painful. Rook d5. He missed it. Bishop c6. Yeah, he missed rook d5. I mean, I'm sure I'm still losing, but rook d5 was... You don't need the pawn there. You just play rook d5 and you completely paralyze my bishop and my rook. At least this way I still have some vague hopes. The bishop is hanging. I can put my rook on d2 somehow. You know, I still think like, oh, actually, no. Bishop b5, I have check and back. Oh, maybe I can hold this. Oh my God. Maybe I can hold this. Holy crap. All about activity. Just everything active, everything active. But still, I'm extremely doubtful, but that's why we play the game. Which is why rook d8 was a nice move too. Because this was always the idea, to open up both pieces and go from 0 to 2. Now we have a nice activity. It's been ticking down. I've barely got a 1 minute time advantage here, which is just getting me more confident. The problem is when you only have 20 seconds, you're in a time trouble. You're very jumpy. You can't always settle down, especially as the adrenaline builds up that actually you might not be losing. You're coming back from 6 minutes to like 6 minutes to 40 seconds. Now look at this. It's less than a minute. I mean, opponent is using that time. Okay. King e3. Can I play this move? If takes, bishop f1. Oh, look at that. Bishop f1. Bishop f1. Oh, but... Oh, I thought we were... Oh, man. It doesn't work. I thought it worked. It doesn't work. Okay, opponent is going for this one. Oh, that's a good move. Okay, I'm going to take... And I guess I have to go back to c6. I cannot trade bishops. Now white should probably just play h4. And then I probably should not take it. Or should I take it? I have no clue. And I don't have a lot of time. Should I play g3? Oh my god, g3. That move just totally dawned on me. Like, I can just go there. Do I play king f4? King f4, king g5? What do I do? Okay, let's play this move to win the diagonal. This is completely insane. Oh my god. I've got to take. I have to take right away. I got to take this pawn, like, immediately. It's really a shame this pawn's not on a6, because then the bishop wouldn't be able to move at all. No, it's all about activity. Okay, king d4. Tempo. B6 to make sure everything's on a dark square, so it can't be 1. Bishop f3. Bring the bishop back to h7. Okay, let's go this way to keep the king shielded. Can I go win the pawns? Can I go win those pawns? Oh, that's a good move. Okay, I'm gonna go here. That's very smart by my opponent. B5. I'm trying to go B4. Now they could go B4. And then I don't know what's going on anymore. Then I'll probably take. King F4. Which pawn do I want? King D4, Bishop C6. Okay, I'm in time. Here. Am I in time? Oh my gosh, Bishop C6, there's this, but there's Bishop E2. Maybe I should have gone to... I don't know. What is that? Uh-oh, King E5, King E3, King F6. I'm gonna go here. Ah! Am I losing? I think I'm losing. There was Bishop D3. Oh, man. I let the pawn get too far. I let the pawn get too far. Oh, what a game. I really wonder if I could have held that. Yeah, this is over. I'm going to resign. Oh man, wild game. Wild, wild, wild game. That was crazy. Oof. So this game exposed a lot about me as a player. Let's just go through it. So it was a Caro-Kann, and my opponent went back to knight c3. Past couple times, opponent has played e5, I played c5. Then opponent played e5, I played bishop f5. This time they go back to knight c3, and now it's up to me to deviate rather than playing bishop f5 and going into episode 1, which you've obviously seen, right? You saw episode 1, 2, 3, and 4. That's why you're on 5, right? Don't. A. So this time I decided to do this. Now, as it turns out, this line with c3, this is not as it turns out. I'm just trying to say that this is the main line, rook e8 check. And here there's a big kind of break. So black can defend the threat to h7 4 ways. 1, 2, 3, what I did in the game, and actually even f5. You would think that f5 is just a loss of a pawn, like bishop takes f5. And it is, it actually is, but essentially the point is that by removing the guard of the knight, it's not so easy to castle. So here, like knight d7, for example, you can't castle because your knight is hanging. So normally you go like this. And now what black tries to do is go after this bishop. Knight b6, knight c4, knight d5. It's an interesting position. But h5 is like the modern main line. And essentially, white has 2 plans here. I don't know why I'm holding up the 1, but it's 2. 2 plans. Castle short, castle long. That's it. So when people castle long against me, I really like that. Because I can play like bishop e6, and then b5, and then a5. Like I've had people play like g3, trying to create an attack. I close it down. And then I play b5, a5, a4, queen a5. Like I just go, create an attack. My opponent chose short castle and a plan that I've never seen before. So apparently h4 is fine because you're supposed to do that. But here, I learned a lot about myself. First of all, I didn't know the move after bishop f4. I was not aware of just the quick bishop f4. As far as I remembered here, like normally play is a little bit slower than bishop f4. Maybe bishop e3. Maybe white plays h3 to stop me from playing h3. The opponent did this, which is not the most popular plan. And here, now I learned, you have to go knight a6. And you go knight a6, which has been played in some games by some strong players. Here's why. Because if, like, for example, take, and white's like, haha, damage structure, haha. It's actually not that good because you can activate this bishop with a5. And now this bishop comes alive on this diagonal. So this is not very good for white. If you play like take, and queen d2, trying to play queen f4 anyway, that's completely fine, but I will get my knight to d5. So for example, like let's say queen f4, I can play takes, and okay, I mean, I'm not gonna go knight d5, but I can play knight e6. So I'm quick enough to trade your knight. The way it happened in the game is I played it too slowly, and then my opponent was able to kind of get the advantageous position. Now, all endgames are bad here, the 3-on-4. This is known as the queenside majority for white. Whenever both sides are castled on the short side, 4-on-3 or 3-on-2 or 2-on-1 or 1-on-0, essentially, means that that side of the board will always have a pass pawn opportunity in all endgames. And that's going to be bad because I'm going to have to defend against it. So trading, it's very important here you trade one pair of rooks and not both. It's very important. You do not go here, and this isn't a very advanced concept at this point. If you're like below 1800, you could trade as many rooks as you want. You could trade all 7 of your rooks. You could probably still draw or win this with black. But here's the thing. Like, a position like this with even fg3, and by the way, white could play fg3, because in the future, white could march these pawns down and try to create an outside pass pawn. That's what that would be called. You would trade this pawn and create an h-pawn passer to deflect my pieces over there. But regardless, even if you take like this is just very passive for black. Like, the 4-on-3 is almost always a winning advantage if it's converted the right way. It's going to be a lot harder to fight with this for a draw. So what I did at this point is I misevaluated just how dangerous this endgame was. That is essentially what I did. I completely, like, I was feeling too good from the first game of this video, and I just completely, like, misevaluated that something like f4, f5 to win my pawn over here was anything. And then I misevaluated again. After f4, it's not that scary. It's actually not that scary. I just had to be smart. But I wasn't. At this point, if you remember, I spent all my time because I thought I had messed up. I should have just stayed focused and looked for the best move. How do I create counterplay? I got to the creation of the counterplay against this pawn, but a lot later. If in this position I had played f5, rook h3, rook d8, I would have been fine. Because if rook h4, I just go c5. Now actually black is playing for advantage. And if opponent stays patient and just brings the king, which is the best plan, then I would play maybe b5. So for example, king e3, b4, like looking for some sort of counterplay, like take, and like rook b8, for example. And so what might happen is we get into an endgame where I'm just in time. While this rook is going over here, getting my pawn, I'm also just in time on the queen side. I had to be faster with my counterplay, which means a5 was just a very bad move. A5 is just not a smart move at all. But what's funny is that it's not about preventing f4. Actually, g5 looks like it prevents f4. It doesn't prevent f4 at all. In fact, preventing f4 gives white a almost winning advantage because f4 is still possible. That's the most incredible thing, because if I take, I have tripled pawns now, and white just goes full Pac-Man, right? Just goes full Pac-Man here, right? Like, so the way to create counterplay after a3 is b6, because then if f4 is played to try to play f5, then c5 is just in time, or f5, rook h3, c5, and I'm just in time. For example, takes, like let's say rook h4 is coming, c4. And you know what c4 does? Locks down the b pawn. So it's about flank counterplay. While your opponent's piece is getting deflected, you need to go be fast enough with the pawn breaks. I completely misevaluated the position, and then even here, I was kind of down on myself once I blundered this very important Zwischenzug in between check. In my mind, I had only calculated this, so I spent a lot of time, and then I blundered. Right, I spent a ton of time blundering this. Now white is much better, and I tried to do my best with c5. This actually was a very practically good decision. And look how dangerous dc is after rook d8. Like, white almost has no advantage here. Bishop e2 is forced, and you can try to go for this. I can play king f6 with the idea to play this, which is why in endgames you want to give your pieces space. You want to space them apart and try to coordinate them, not have them tripping over each other. Speaking of tripping over each other, I did my best here, and this was my last chance not to blunder. Apparently, king e6, I didn't play this because I was afraid of this. I just go up. You see, opponent is not coordinated. Pieces are all scattered and hanging, right? But I was like, well, why would I do that? I mean, I should take the pawn right away. Low time, kind of game slipping. And then, remember I said don't tie your shoes together here? Or don't coordinate your pieces poorly? Yeah, rook d5 is winning. And I did notice that. I did notice this move. You don't need to take a pawn. You just need to paralyze my activity. But this endgame, all the way down here, even as ugly as it is, and I was getting excited, is winning for white. It's always winning. Even though it looks like I'm totally suffocating my opponent, the h-pawn is too strong, and maybe I could have drawn it a little bit later, but a good job by my opponent to kind of very slowly time the bishop trade threat so that the pawn could promote. And maybe here I should have just went for the pawn. But like, if I just beeline to g5, I'm gonna lose this pawn, and maybe I can hold this, but I don't know. I don't think so. And well, the rest is history. Good conversion by my opponent, freezing my weak pawn on b5 on the same color square as their bishop. b5 probably expedited my demise. Yeah, it did. Apparently, I should go here, but it's probably always losing. Probably always losing, just I decided to go out with a bang, and go out with a bang I did, or with a whimper. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I don't know how long it is. I'm just recording these kind of chunks of analysis now, and then I'm going to merge it all together. If you didn't make it this far in the video, I just want to say, look, I appreciate you very much. These are long episodes. These are long games, long training episodes. I'm learning a lot every episode about my Caro Kann. I'm filling in the gaps of my knowledge in my theoretical side. And with white, I'm just really enjoying experimenting with different lines. So do leave a comment of support if you made it this far, or a comment of hate, like you're never going to do this. There's a higher chance that this tripod, which resembles a personal pleasure object, will become a grandmaster before you. That I might mount my camera on that pretty soon. That's all, folks. I appreciate you very much. Take care. See you in the next episode. Get out of here.